Greetings, everyone. This is Mike Riley, the voice of Ironman. And this is the Old School Tri Show with my Kiwi mates Cameron Harper and Brian Ashby. The show that talks about all things triathlon, old and new. We're powered by Ansco Foods, bringing you nutrition and good health from New Zealand's beef and lamb. Thanks for listening, everyone. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Old School Tri Show, brought to you by our good friends at Ansco Foods. And today, Brian, we have a fantastic opportunity to talk to one of the real legends of our sport.
Yeah, this guest that we've got tonight, she's like the ultimate pub quiz question. Name the New Zealand woman who, prior to winning 7 Ironman New Zealand titles, was a Commonwealth Games road cyclist. The one and only Jo Lawn.
Ansco Foods is proud to be the new naming partner of Ironman New Zealand, ensuring every stroke, pedal and stride is powered by the best nature has to offer. Ansco Foods is on a mission to bring nutrition and good health from New Zealand's finest beef and lamb. Ansco Foods, putting the iron in Ironman with New Zealand's finest beef and lamb. Visit anscofoods.com/Ironman to find out more.
Well, Jo Lawn, fantastic to catch up with you. It's been a wee while, 7 times champion at Ironman New Zealand. But what we love, everyone's got great story of race days, epic race days in Taupo, but everyone's got a backstory as well. And mentioned just before, Commonwealth Games, your road to Ironman and prior to getting into triathlon, your sporting background, Commonwealth Games, just take us through young Jo Lawn, little Jo Lawn, and her sporting aims and goals and dreams, and how you got to sort of the start line, if you like, of triathlon.
Well, I think for me, as a youngster, I did every sport that there possibly was. Didn't do too much schoolwork, but went to school and then, did every sport. My number one passion was tennis. So I played tennis. Of course, I did every sport, but actually I didn't do hockey. I was a bit scared of the ball. So my first love was tennis, and then I got a scholarship to the States and played a year over in Texas. But I kind of didn't have the patience for tennis. I have red hair. I lose my temper, but like a McEnroe, a female McEnroe, I think. So I ended up in Texas, tennis scholarship. Didn't enjoy it that much. First time away from home. Leaving school, away from home, living over there. Yeah, I think I was just a bit young, and then loved tennis though. But I came home.
Well, how good to get a scholarship, Jo? To get a scholarship, in perspective, just you, as a junior, you I guess provincial level, age group level, and so on. You must have been sort of top of the pile.
Yeah. I mean, I was up there. I wasn't the best. But, I was always determined and never gave up. So I think that this college that I went to in the States, I actually was in Waco, Texas, of all places that people didn't know where Waco was until, about a year after I got home. Were you there? So I was in Waco, Texas. After that, really, what did I do? I think I ran a lot, worked a little bit here and there for my dad, for his company. And then got injured running, as people do, and then started biking. And so in 1994, I think it was, so long ago, thinking back now, I did duathlons for a year. And I went to the World Champs in Tasmania. And as an age grouper, just went along. And my coach at that time was John Ackland. And my bike was pretty good. My running was not good. So after the race, we got home. He said, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. He said, well, I think your biking's really good. I think that maybe we should go down the biking avenue. And I was like, okay, let's do biking. So then I became a biker. And so really for 5 years, I represented New Zealand from 95 through 98, and finishing, my cycling career, I guess, in the Commonwealth Games. I was never a sprinter. I was always a workhorse. But scared to sprint, actually. Didn't really like to be around people too much. So, I don't want to be near people. Yeah. So, unless I break away. And really, we were so far behind. so far behind cycling over. I think even in the world champs in Valkenburg in Holland that I went to, we were pretty much pulled off the course. We were so far behind, and it was like, but man, I don't know how we could go any faster. So really, and I thought, well, this is not really my thing. I kind of want to be doing something, for myself, and that's when I pretty much came home, and John and I said, okay, let's what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know, maybe I'd like to do a triathlon. I had a dream one day. I had a really amazing family friend that she did Ironman, and I was like, wow, imagine exercising all day. That would be my thing. So she raced in Auckland, and I went and watched her. I was like, this is the thing I want to do. Imagine exercising all day. That's my thing. So anyway, so he said, well, hey, let's see if you can do let's go and do. There's a race in Hawaii. And I said, oh, okay. What's that? And he said, oh, it's a half Ironman. And I said, well, what's half Ironman? He said, what's a half distance of the full one? And do you want to go and do that? And I was like, okay, I'll go and do that. So anyway, so I went over to I raced Honu, obviously now, half Ironman Kona, and I think I was virtually last out of the water. Didn't even know, like, they talked about coral and all this sort of stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm scared of the ocean, and I still am scared of the ocean, or still scared of water. I wore shoes into the water in the bay there. It wasn't in town, it was out by the Sheraton, and so I wore shoes into the water because I didn't want to get these coral things that people talked about in me. So I think I got out last. The bike ride was from the Sheraton, yeah. Had to go up the horrible hill, all the way up to Waikoloa and back, jump off the bike, and then run up the hill into the not energy lab, the pit, which is no longer part of the Ironman course, but we eventually went in then, and then in the race, came out last of the water, first off the bike, and then I won the race. So I won a slot to Kona. And they said, that was part of my, obviously, award was to take up a Kona slot. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing two of these things here. There's no way. So as though I passed it down to the girl next to me. And she absolutely screamed, oh, my God, are you crazy? Are you serious? I'm like, I don't want to do two of these here. And this heat, and this, there's no way. And that wind, you're crazy. I'm quite happy with my Aquasphere goggles. Like, that's perfect. A free pair of goggles, I'm happy. So that was really my introduction to triathlon, was when John actually suggested I racing in Kona, Hawaii. Then after that, because that was obviously like June, July, she's like, what do you reckon about doing Ironman in March? And I was like, oh, okay. He said, okay, I think you're ready, but how about we just do a marathon first to see if you can actually do a marathon? We knew the bike was fine. Swimming doesn't really matter. So I did a marathon in October, the Auckland Marathon, I think October, November, as it always is. Yeah. And that led me to March the next year. And wow. I hated every second of my first Ironman. Swore I'd never do another one.
Let's backpedal a wee bit with your cycling career.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, women's cycling, it just sounds ridiculous to say it, but then it was kind of a new thing internationally, wasn't it? It wasn't really Con Games, Olympic Games. It was really young. So you were sort of a bit of a pioneer, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was, you're racing for New Zealand, and you're like, well, there's probably not that many people really racing. Of course, it was very special to represent, your country. I forget that I went to the Commonwealth Games. It was pretty cool. I mean, it taught me a lot about the bike and different scenarios when you're racing. So it was great, but ultimately, I'm happy with the path that I went, because cycling, I wasn't a sprinter. Ultimately, in these teams, it comes down to the sprint or whatever. Maybe I'd be a tour rider, but then there wasn't even, I think my first ever bike race I did was Bev May's tour. Have you heard of Bev May, who lives in Morrinsville? Yeah, my first ever. She's an absolute pioneer in women's cycling in New Zealand, and she lives in Morrinsville, and every year she has this tour for young girls, older girls, and I raced it, and all the New Zealand team was there, and I won it because it was a 3-day stage race, and on the last day, on the Sunday, was the criterium, and I'm like, what's that? I don't know what that is. And they said, well, you just do like a 2K circuit 10 times or 20 minutes, whatever it is. And every time there's a bell, there's a sprint. I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I don't want to be near people. So what I did was I just took off. And then no one knew who I was. And then I lapped the field. So then I won because I was a lap up. So I was like, oh. And so I don't even have to be in the group. I can just sit out to the side. And then I won. And everyone's like, who's she? Because that's how really my career in cycling started, is going into a race that I never know.
Because that kind of what you've described with your cycling, in reality, it's kind of your style of bike racing is kind of tailor-made for what came later, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I was a workhorse, Commonwealth Games, I worked for your teammate, for Susie Pride, who's a sprinter. So everything that was any attack, you chase it. And I love that. But then in the end, you're not the winner. So in the end you're like, well, I need to do something probably for myself. So that's really how the calendar evolved into doing Ironman.
It's funny you were saying before, Joe, that when you're talking about the first ever half that you did in Hawaii, and you're saying, the swim doesn't really matter, and I get what you're saying, right? Because you literally overtook the entire field on the bike, which is incredible. But you actually were in your career, and possibly still are, a bloody good swimmer. You're always towards the front of the pack, So what made you actually be able to pick up your swim? Was it sheer hard work, or was it just turned out there was another sport you're actually pretty good at?
That's a good story. So in the beginning, I used to just go to Parnell Baths and just swim. I would do 6 1,000s. And everyone's like, no. I remember Hamish Carter saying, Nan, you need to get into a squad. No, I don't even know how to do a flip turn. I don't know how to read the clock. Because I said, but you don't need those things in an Ironman. Like, you just need to swim from A to B, like from there to there. There's no anyone who takes off the wall, beautiful, slipstream in the water. You're like, but I don't need that. Like, that's not a false sense of speed. So ultimately, I just pounded away. I mean, I lived in Parnell, so the pool was down there, big, open, wetsuit swims, which is all our races were generally in wetsuit except Hawaii. I think that I got a good foundation of strength in the water, and maybe from being a tennis player, all my previous sports obviously has helped my upper body strength. But then there was a real big change actually when Hamish did say to me, you do need to go to a squad. And that's when we met Mark Bone, and we went in with him, and you're like, whoa, this is like the what? How many reads? Like, how do you read that? Like, what's the black, red, and the top thing, and I don't know any of that. So anyway, I think that really did lift your level, which is really good for. I think you need to do a mix of both for swimming. You need to swim by yourself long, especially for Ironman, and then you need to get into the group where you don't think, and then you're pushed above your limits, and which is only going to improve your swim. And then I know I did. I think I led out once in Taupo, 48 swim. That's a 48's a good swim.
It's a good swim.
I think it was just I think that was just pure strength, and then with the added little spice in the top with Mark, which he's just an incredible swim coach. He just got the best out of every athlete, and so it always helped. So it was. I still have a fear of the water now. Haven't swum since I retired. So I wouldn't go and swim just for the fun of it.
So I was just going to say, so if you were back in, a nice hot day and the ocean's just there, are you going to go jump in, or you're like, nah, I'm not interested?
Oh, probably going to stand in it. But not do freestyle. Because I wouldn't go very far. I mean, even though in the lake in Taupo there's the pipe. There's a pipe.
Yes.
There's a pipe. I don't ever swim anywhere near the pipe, over the pipe by myself. I won't. No, never in training. Never ever. If I was training and we'd swim from 5 mile to the yacht club.
So what's wrong with the pipe?
Well, there's things around the pipe. There could be creatures in the lake. So
Stephen King.
But on race day, there's no pipe. There was definitely no pipe on race day. I definitely didn't see the pipe on race day. But every other day, there's a big pipe there, and there's buoys and things live around those things in the lake.
Yeah.
So I had those fears, but the good thing is that I had to overcome those fears to get to the bike.
Well,
So it's a great thing.
So what kind of things would you do if you were, you knew that you had to take on? I mean, you were always a very focused and determined person to get the best out of yourself on race day. But if you were in Hawaii or Taupo and the pipe's there or whatever it is, what process did you have to go through to not go, oh my goodness, it's the flipping pipe, I can't do this? Like, what
But
was
on
that
race
like?
day, on race day, it was never there.
Really? Yeah.
I never saw it.
Yeah.
So what about in the few days before race when you do, just acclimatizing, getting a feel for the water, and what were those swims like for you?
Well, I'd have to have someone go with me over the pipe.
Yeah.
I'll just wait.
It's amazing.
Yeah, wait,
Yeah.
just tread water, and then or just hopefully that I wasn't last, because then there's a real struggle if I'm last. Just wait and then tread water, and then we just swim over the pipe together, and then I go. Yeah, I know. But it's kind of weird, but everyone has a little thing, no?
Yeah, that's right. Everyone's got their thing.
Everyone's got
Yeah.
their quirks, Joe. I think it's actually cool quirk. I like it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool for people listening to the Old School Tri Show hearing that from somebody like you with your accomplished record, because for Weekend Warriors, we've
everyone
got
has something that they fear.
So, it's great.
But the good thing is that it was never there on race day. It wasn't even in my mind, because I had other things to worry about. So that's a good thing that I only focused on the important stuff that was on race day. The pipe wasn't important, and I didn't even know if we swim near the pipe on the race. So I didn't see it if we did. I was too busy worrying about something else, more important stuff ultimately. Yeah.
So your first, you talked about you ran a marathon sort of in between your Hawaii excursion and so on, and your first. So 2000 was your first Ironman. Well, you picked a day. Wow. Yeah. So you've got Bentley and Balance there, Robin Rook, and it's 35 degrees and insane, and it's, well, I suppose it's what you'd kind of done in Hawaii, really, given the heat. It's just sort of double the distance. What was that day like for you?
I don't remember much of it, but I do remember that the run was just so bad. I remember, I don't even know where it was on the course, but I was just like ripping off I had a t-shirt, a singlet underneath, a little rash shirt or little singlet underneath my race uniform, peeling it off. I had a cap, and I'm like, this is annoying me. I threw it off. I was talking to everyone, telling them all my problems. The worst thing you do is probably get rid of your hat for a start. But all these things just annoyed me. Just annoyed me. And it's like, how do you possibly do this thing? I was in so much pain. And at the finish line, I think I was fourth. Yeah, I think I was fourth overall. But first in my age group. So I entered as an age grouper because I didn't know if I liked this thing first. When people were telling me, you could have entered as a pro, you could have made money. I was like, yeah, but I don't even know if I can do an Ironman first, let alone why can't I just do it as a person? Ultimately had all the toys. I threw all my toys out of the cot for sure on the run, just because you just don't know how to handle it. You've never been in that situation before, and my patience probably was very thin. But that's the amazing part. That Ironman is all about patience. So I didn't have it for tennis. Definitely didn't have it my first Ironman. But it's things that you learn. Like, just because you had a bad swim doesn't mean you're going to have a bad Ironman. Just because you have a bad bike doesn't mean that you're going to run bad. So, but these are all things that you ultimately learn later on, You may have no legs on the bike at all. You just have toothpicks. And then you get off, you're thinking, oh my God, my day is over. And then you get off and you start running like unbelievable. So, that's what the amazing thing about Ironman is, that you just never give up. You just never give in. Because you just don't know what will happen.
All this weird stuff, and you've chucked your cap and you're telling everyone your problems and stuff like that. Yeah. You're fourth overall, you won your age group, and eventually sort of, the steam stops coming out your ears and you cool down and stuff, and you reflect on it, that result, did it sort of, the penny sort of drop? Actually, I'm all right at this, and maybe, I'm suffering, but other people have been suffering more than me, perhaps.
No, I think that I remember that night we were staying in, there was a hotel called Caboose. There was a hotel called Caboose. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. I remember that from back in the day. I do remember that. Yeah,
It's a log cabin.
yes,
Yeah,
I
the
think my in-laws
Caboose.
stayed there one year. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, and so I remember we stayed there, and I remember in the middle of the night I woke up and I was in so much pain. I can't even go to the toilet. My legs didn't work. And I remember I rang my mum in another room. I'm like, never ever let me do another one of these things. I can't even go to the toilet. I can't even move my legs. I'm like, am I ever going to be normal again? And I remember saying that never ever let me do another one of those things again. And then of course, 2 days later, you're like, oh yeah, I'll be back in. But even the funniest thing is that, so that was 2000, and then 2001, the poster for that year, I was on the poster at the finish line, and my face was so bad. My face was just like, what did I do? I had a volunteer around my neck giving me a towel, in the middle, and there I was just like, I was probably in tears. And it's like so funny. They used me the next year for being like, okay, look, there's this person who is, not really grimacing at the finish line.
Well, they must have seen the way forward and seen and foresaw the future, because you're fourth in 2000, and then again in sort of 2001, you move up, you get onto the podium. Again, it's the Lisa Bentley, Karen Balance show. So what was you've turned pro at this point. So what prompted, was that in consultation with John Ackland? How did that sort of come about?
I think because that my first year, so 2000, when I was fourth overall, but won my age group. Then I went to Hawaii, and 25, 29 age group, and I won Hawaii age grouper.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I was a world champion. I am a world champion, which I forget.
Yes,
When you think about it, you actually think, I actually did win that year. Yeah. So I actually won 25 to 29 age group. And then I thought, well, there's nothing else now to do because you've won that. Then the next step ultimately will be to do the pro. I think I finished 17th that year, but first in my age group. But then, when you compare yourself to the pros, I think I was 17th. So ultimately it was just like, that chapter's done, then now move to the next one. I wasn't going to go back. I thought, well, maybe I could make some money because people were telling me, well, you can make money at this. And I was like, well, how much money? But I didn't do it for the money because I loved it. I do it for the love of it. The money was, you can't control the money. But.
Yeah. So in 01, you're on the podium, Bentley and Balance, and did you feel, did it feel like a natural step? You've gone forward one place and you were solid against them the year before. Did you really feel like I'm really belong in these pro ranks? I can do this. I see a way forward.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you always are striving, and they were probably two of the best runners in the sport. Definitely probably top 6, definitely top 10, runners in any Ironman.
Yeah.
So, but it was great because they ultimately taught me that, the Ironman ultimately is about the run. It doesn't matter how amazing you bike. If you can't run, you can't win. Ultimately, and you can have the best bike in the world, but if you can't run, you're never going to win. So I had to decide: do I want to get the fastest bike split and then do a 3:30 marathon? Do I want that? If that's my goal, then I have to be happy with finishing 3rd and 4th. But if I want to do the next step up, then I have to think more carefully about how I deliver my bike split, and then that will prepare me for the run. Because ultimately it matters where you are at the end of the run, not the bike.
Joe, did you have, when you turned pro, did you have specific goals in mind, or was it sort of those things like you've just been talking about? Did you think to yourself, you know what, I want to win Ironman New Zealand, I want to, go up to Hawaii and smash it? Did you have those sort of goals in mind when you first started out?
I think that from my friend who did Ironman in Auckland that year, when I watched her, I remember just thinking, wow, after that race, I had a dream, and I said, I would love to win Ironman. I'd love to win an Ironman. And, just coming out of the blue. I don't know why I said that. And I said, I'd really love to win an Ironman. And so then, we worked hard at it with John. And then after about 4 years with John, that's when, I met Armando, and then Armando continued on coaching me for the rest of my career. So I think I had one with John. Yeah, one with John, and then the rest with Armando. And Chris Pallone a little bit. Yeah.
in 2002,
Yeah.
I guess Karen Balance said, she was a great story in herself with, 3
Yeah.
seconds in a row, and then finally got her breakthrough win. But
Yeah.
you step forward again, you're up one more place up to second, and Lindley Ellison, part of the mix there as well. So Kiwis 1, 2, and 3. The progress, the momentum's really starting to happen for you at this point. But in some way, with the attention on Karen, was that taking a bit of, I don't know, external pressure off you? People were almost willing her because of those 3-second places that she'd had in the preceding years. So in some ways, in the broader public, you were almost under the radar a wee bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a hell of a long time ago to remember. 21 years ago, 22 years ago now. So you kind of like, I don't remember how I was feeling then. But John and he was telling me different things, how to do stuff for the race. But I kind of wasn't really believing him. I know more. I know this thing. I've already done 2 of these. So ultimately, then the night before, or the week before, or a few days, before I won my first one in 2003, I was ready. I had been working with a sports psychologist as well, Craig Lewis, and we had just been working on a few things. And actually, that year also, I had trained with Grant Dalton a lot. And that was the year he did it. So I went for a walk, as I did every single night. I stayed in the same house in Rainbow Point Drive. Always the same things. Everything had to be the same, of course, with Ironman. And I went for a walk with Mum the night before the race, and I cried. And I said, I think I'm ready. And she said, it's fine. You just take your time. And I said, but Mum, I'm ready. There was something switched in me that I maybe believed what John had told me and Craig had been working on and working with Grant, that I think I was ready. Everything was loaded. Everything was perfect. And so I was ready to deliver the race that I could, and I knew I could. And I cried, and I was like, shoot, I think I can do it. I can do it. And then, of course, the next day, I did it. So there was just something switched. Everything was just, everything was full. Everything, my cup was full. I was ready to go, and I had to deliver it. John is like, hey, if anything happens, I don't want you to tell the whole city. I don't want you to tell me. I don't want to know that you're hurting. I don't know if, or whatever, you dropped your goo or something. You have to focus for the whole race. I was like, for the whole race? How am I not going to talk to anyone? He says, trust me, when you're in that zone, it will feel like 5 minutes. Sure enough.
Yeah.
When at one stage I was hurting, but I had to talk to someone. And I remember I saw someone at in a Rainbow Point Drive, I think, and I said to them, I'm hurting, but I'm okay. I just had to talk to someone and let them know, like, I'm okay. I'm hurting. So I just said, hey, I'm hurting, but I'm okay. So, everything was, I was ready. Yeah. Those previous years, I wasn't ready. I hadn't learnt enough.
And knowing that you're, having that moment of, it's almost like a moment of clarity the night before, as you lined up the next morning, were you how were you feeling? Were you like, I've got this? Or were you like, oh my goodness, what the heck's going on? Or were you just like,
No.
you know what, I'm in the zone now, it's on?
Yeah, you're in a zone, you're in a zone, and that everything comes easy. Like, I don't know, everything happens just naturally. It happens because you've planned it. And I have gone through it in my brain that I know what to do, so nothing's going to be a surprise. I knew, what time to get there, and about my week. So everything was just like perfect. And then it was just up to me to deliver it. And I think that I was in such a headstrong place that day that I thought, well, I'm ready. So, I think that the work behind the scenes on the brain is super important. Ironman I think is all about the mental side. Many people still ask me now, what was your strength? Your best swim, bike, or runner? I was like, actually nothing. My mental side was my strength ultimately, and I think that those 3 years really prepared me.
Yeah. Because the other thing on that day in 2003, I mean, that was one heck of a podium as well. I mean, you beat out Karen Balance and Lisa Bentley in third place. I mean, that's an incredible podium to be standing on top of.
Yeah, because they were the gun runners, and I knew that I had to play my cards differently because I had played my cards the same the other years and they didn't work. So it was up to me. They can all tell you how to do it, but if you don't do it, you're never gonna know. So I had to do something different if I wanted to do a different step. And so I was like, okay, shit, I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to do something different. And it's hard to back yourself, but you have to back yourself. And I had to play my cards differently. And then ultimately I focused. Funny when you focus, how good things go. Stayed in the zone, and that was the result that happened. I couldn't give in on the run because they were, sprinting behind me. So I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I just couldn't give in.
Yeah. So how hard was that? And I remember post race and press conferences thinking, knowing that they are hunting you down. I think you'd done a record bike split that day. Is that correct?
I don't see. That's the thing. I don't know about splits and numbers and times.
Yeah.
And all I know is my best time in Hawaii on the run, because that's what matters.
Yeah.
No, I just think that it's positions really. It's always nice to say, oh, I ran this and I biked that, but every time that you sit on the start line, the conditions are different, so you can't compare. You cannot compare one race. You can't 1 year to different, completely different, wind, temperature, everything. So you just you can't. I mean, you have a fair idea. So yeah.
So it's interesting. So I was just going to say, Brian, it's interesting that you say that, Joe, because some of the people we've talked to on the show already, the likes of Scott Molina and Cam Brown and all these guys, it's been quite incredible, really, and they all sort of seem to say this very similar things, and obviously Aaron Baker as well, who's just a legend of a pioneer of a person. But they all seem to say the same thing: you race the race that's in front of you. Don't worry about the numbers. If the race is going up the road, you flip and go up the road. If you've got to you just got to roll the dice at some point. And it's awesome hearing you say that. It's the consistency of the champions. It really is.
Yeah. I think that that also for your guests who are listening and things like that is like the data. It's important, yes, but it's not everything, because you got to go by how you feel, and the wind and your heart rate is different because you're excited and this has happened, and there's you really have to be aware of your surroundings and adapt to the surroundings ultimately, because if you're too by the book, you're just going to be left behind. You have to keep an eye on it, obviously, but it's not that the be all and end all is the computer and the data numbers, which I think a lot of people do get hooked on for racing.
And your key rivals are dealing with the same issues that you are dealing with conditions wise as well. So it's who adapts best, I suppose.
Yeah. Who can overcome?
So over the next couple of over the next couple of years, suddenly you've won it, and you've talked about the work of Craig Lewis and John and the belief system that you've got now. I mean, was it a belief system that you were able to sort of then just tap into in the years that followed? You beat sort of Lindley the next year in 05, Monica Kaplan, an outrageous sort of swim, and you had a good solid win that year and so on. How confident did you feel in 04 and 05 going into those races, knowing that you'd got the job done and knowing those systems that you'd collectively put in place? Like when we throw Mark Bone in the mix as well with your with your swimming and so on.
It's almost like you know the formula, or the recipe, and it's up to you if you want to do the same. Ultimately, I looked at the training always the week leading up to the race. Amanda and I obviously would look back and okay, because you start doubting yourself, and then you look, no, I'm okay. I've done. I remember that. Oh yeah, remember that one. Well, I did do some work. So you just look back when you start having those doubts. You look back at your diaries and your workload, and there's the answer. So it's true, it happened. So why would you be second guessing yourself? And then when I had the formula right of my mental state, then it was just up to me, did I want to go into that zone again for 9 hours? And it's, do I want to win or do I not want to win? And ultimately it was, yeah, I have to do the same formula on race day again, you know? Yeah. Yeah. You have to get in that zone, and then you're in there. Subconscious zone, and you don't even know.
It was interesting as about that time around that 04, 05, you were really flying, like you've just been talking about, Joe. You had your consistency, like you knew what you had to do to achieve. And it was really interesting to watch from the sidelines, like Brian and I were. And I was actually saying to Brian before this, through those years, and you were consistently going well in Kona as well. And it was almost, I said to Brian earlier when we're chatting off air, I was like, if you're going to put your house on somebody to do well, it was going to be on Joe Lawn at that point. You just seem to have it nailed through those years.
Yeah, I think that, I was very consistent in Hawaii. I mean, 2 fourth places, I would probably trade both for 1/3, but it wasn't to be. Cam and I, we were both, shit, how did Cam go? Oh, shit, man, I've got to do well because Cam did well. So it was kind of like, it was great having Cam there because we were great mates as well. So, you always feed off how well he did, and it gives you that boost as well, that, hey, we do it for the Kiwis. So, I think that, looking back, you get the formula, and it's up to you if you want to just keep delivering the same.
Let's go to 2006. Things got really weird, really weird.
Oh.
Weather bomb hit, and uncertainty and so on. I mean, look, ultimately, it turned into a duathlon, and you got title number 4 at that time. But how stressful was that day in the build up to the race, with so much uncertainty around it, and just not knowing, and what was going on with the pros and briefings and all of those things? Can you sort of give us some background on that day, because it was just probably the most outrageous day in the history of the event?
Yeah, that was intense, of course, leading up to the race is fine, the same thing as usual, but then when that weather thing happened, and then we're sitting in the amphitheater there at the center there, and they're saying, okay, we're going to start with a time trial on the bike, so no swim. Okay, I was kind of happy about that. No swim, but we're going to do the bike, and you're going to go first. You're like, but why does number 1 go first? Like, they never go first in a cycling event. You never put the winner first. The winner is the one that goes last. So it was such a nightmare because we had absolutely no idea what was going on behind you. So it was so intense. I mean, that Cam lost to Ain Earho, the big guy from Estonia, because he was probably getting time splits on Cam. We just thought, how do you put the winners or the fastest people first? It just doesn't. That's not the way these time trial scenarios work. You always put the fastest last. So that race was so hard. I had to go into a dark hole, push myself beyond any Ironman, way beyond, because I couldn't lose. There's no way I could lose. Like, I can't lose. So I had to just go absolutely inside out until the finish line. And I think it was just absolute exhaustion. It wasn't even a half. It was, not even a swim. It was just a bike and a run. And you're just like, and lucky enough I was to come away with a win, but it was really hard. That was, I put myself in a hurt box big time.
And of course, what people that might not be familiar with, I mean, it was still blowing an absolute gale, and it bucketing down, and all of those, all the fun stuff. What was it like knowing then that you were going to be the rabbit going off the front, the women? Did you do a bit of table thumping and have to say, look, hang on a second, did it get a bit sort of testy and so on, and briefings and the like?
I mean, it was just like, are you crazy? Like, you don't set us off first. Like, are you crazy? But what, they make their decision. They're the rules. You have to go by the rules, and if you want to race, then you have to abide by the rules. I mean, you can't, if you start getting, saying things, you're just hurting yourself ultimately. You're just injuring yourself. So you just have to sometimes shut your mouth, pray to God, hope that you can pull it off. And I managed to that day. I had member Bevan Doherty's sister, Fee Doherty, and she's like a gazelle running. These people, you're like, if it was the real Ironman, I would beat them, but this thing is completely different. But I still had to bury myself. Like, I remember that morning, Kieran Doe got hit by a speaker, one of the big massive speakers outside.
Yeah.
It fell, but thank God he had his dreadlocks. His dreadlocks saved him. Yeah, this massive outdoor speaker. Like, it was like absolutely hilarious. I mean, that's just how
I remember I was standing next to him. I remember somebody saying to him,
you nearly got knocked or killed. Yeah, killed by a bloody speaker. It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
Because I remember it was one of the other male pros at the time asked him if went over to the speaker and asked the speaker if it was okay.
It's okay.
And poor Kieran. Poor old Kieran. Yeah, I was standing right in the suite.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. I just think it was something that no one is ever prepared for that to happen. I mean, maybe now things, of course, they have contingency plans that are talked about in weeks in advance. But that's the thing, is that it was still early days in the world of Ironman. So ultimately, I had to put myself in the hurt box 10 times more. And because the funny thing is that we hadn't trained for that speed. We had trained for Ironman. So it's a lot longer than now. We've got to ask you to do, blast out of the Bibbin door at, 100 miles an hour. Like, I didn't train for this. So, I knew I could last a distance, but did I have the pace there? So ultimately I was lucky enough, but that one was very, very, very painful. Yeah.
Crazy. So the next couple of years, you master of the universe, 07 and 08. And I think in 08, you smacked out, I think, your fastest time on the Topol course at that stage. And again, conditions and the like. But you just, I guess when you got to the start line, people seeing, oh God, Joe Lawn's there again, it must have been incredibly intimidating for the others around you. Did you feel what was going on in your head at that time? Did you just feel completely in control when you got to the start line through that period?
I think definitely leading up to the races and things, you always second guess yourself. And Amanda and I always look back to your training, and you're like, oh, no, I've done the work. You silly, like, don't listen to that stuff. And then there's lots of talk around, there was Gina, there was, lots of other people, and you just think, oh yeah, man, maybe. Yoko, a girl from Japan, Yoko, from Auckland. I always think, oh yeah. Gosh, she's been training a lot, and I would just pick out anyone and think, oh yeah, I've been training a lot. Obviously, they're going to beat me. And then as soon as race started, I was a different person. Yeah, it doesn't matter who those people are. It's all about you, all about me on race day. So I think sometimes it's better just to get into the race, and then all those things shut up because you're focusing on other things. I got back into that zone that I knew that I needed to be in, and all those voices of second guessing, or have you done enough? Are you fit? Are you lean enough? All those sorts of things go through your head. But once you start the race, it's easy. You just know what to do. Put one foot in front of the other.
Dang.
With the 2008 race, Joe, I remember that very, very well, because we go back a little while, I mean, most people would go through in those days and do the Tauranga half Ironman in the early new year. And I remember 2008, I was commentating Tauranga that year then at Ironman New Zealand. And a young lady by the name of Kate Bevilacqua, who we all know well, Ironman champion in WA and other places. And I think she may have even won that Tauranga half that year.
She did.
And then
she won Tauranga.
Yeah, she did. And she turned up, and she was with her mum, who was a lovely lady, and the two of them would hang out, best mates. They were a beautiful relationship. And she turned up in March at the race, and the two of you had one heck of a battle. Probably one of easily the top 2 or 3 greatest battles I've ever seen on an Ironman racetrack was with you and Kate in 2008. And it was your strength, resilience, and prepared to get into that box and just hold the lid down is probably what got you through that day.
Yeah, I mean, that race was awesome. I mean, that was amazing. I can still visualize all of it. And she's a better runner than I am. She was a natural runner, and I wasn't a natural runner. So, when she caught me on the run, I'm like, oh God, here she is. Okay, it's right. I know what to do. Like, I just sit behind. If she's caught me, she thinks she's faster than me. That's fine. She can think she's faster than me, but she's not. So I'm by just sitting in behind her. Okay, you go through. It's fine. You just lead the way. Comes to an aid station. I go in front of her, so I make sure I get the food first. And then she's fuffling around, getting her own drinks. And then we run all the way out to 5 Mile Bay. And I'm actually okay because she's caught me. So you obviously think you're running faster. You can lead the way. You break the wind for me. So I just tuck in behind her. I had to play the old mind games, and lucky enough I was feeling good. So that's another bonus. And I just let her lead. And I just sat back, and it's funny. I have a neighbour at my mum's house in Auckland in Parnell, and he lives in the dip in Rainbow Point, the dip down there, so that in the old course. In the old course.
Yeah.
So he would always, and his house is always there. And every time we go back to Auckland, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, how'd you go? I saw you there. And he was just a bit of a banter, neighborhood banter. And previously, just before that, we turned around at he was there every year in Taupo. He was there at his house, of course, at his lake house. And we were running back from 5 Mile, and we did the long airport hill. And Yanni Kustos, everyone knows Yanni.
Yes.
And Yanni and me are great mates. We're almost like family. And he's a big supporter of mine, and really does care for me. And I remember him yelling out to me, "You look good. She looks like shit." And it was so funny. Typical Yanni. "You look good. She looks like shit." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm good. I feel good." And it was so funny hearing him say that. And it was just. I remember him visually saying that exactly where we were on the course. And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm behind her. She still thinks she's like I had to play the waiting game. And then we got to that dip in Rainbow Point Drive. And of course, Harvey, my neighbour from Auckland, was there. And I'm like, I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to attack here. I don't know, just something, the fire, like the switch turned on, and I just accelerated up the hill, zoomed through the A station, out Rainbow Point Drive, left, and I was gone. It was like someone had put a rocket under my bum. And I took off, and that was it. It was like I was really proud of my effort because I had played a game. Not many times on race day where you get two side by side, and you think, okay, and I thought, you bet me in Tauranga, you're not beating me again, So that was, but maybe if I hadn't won Tauranga, then Taupo wouldn't have been like that. So, so it's kind of swings and roundabouts. So I was really, I'm like, okay, like, and something just, the switch went, man, and I just took off like a rocket ship, and that's it. Never even looked back. Didn't look back. And yeah, that was a fun day. Yeah, it was a really good. She got the best out of me, and I'm sure I got the best out of her. It was an awesome race. Yeah, very cool.
Brilliant.
I bet another runner. I bet another runner.
Yeah.
Being Lisa Bentley, Karen, you're like, oh my God, there's like all these runners. And then, Kate was a very good runner. So I was proud that I could beat her on the run.
And I mean, progressing through your run splits, your marathons are getting better and better. Just it's that's the way your career is evolving. Your marathons are getting better and better. And I guess we go to 2009, and you'd won 6 in a row at this stage. You didn't win this year. You Gina Crawford, or Gina Ferguson as she then was, won it. But she had to smash out a 3:08 marathon, which was insane. That's sort of going back to the getting close to the sort of Bentley balance sort of time. So she really had to sort of turn herself inside out to get that one. But I suspect, knowing the way that you've been sort of chatting to us over the last wee while, what that did to you for the next year in 2010 oh
Yeah.
my God, your marathon that day, and you can't
Yeah.
say anything about conditions. You get out there on that running
Yeah.
track and you get out there and run a 3:06. Just wow.
Yeah. I mean, that year that I lost, I tried a few different things. I thought, oh, if I get skinnier, I'll run faster. Like you just think, okay, these things that you just think, okay, I'll do that. That's going to make me run faster automatically, of course. If you're skinny, you're lighter. But then I went too far and I lost the strength for the bike. So, even after those many wins, you start playing with things. You start, okay, I need to change this up. I need to change that up. Where ultimately you probably don't. You just think if I change this, I'm going to be so much better. But sometimes you take things too far. So that year, I went, like just 2 kilos, maybe a little bit under, and then ultimately I just lost the strength and the endurance. But then that brought out the best in me the next year, in 2010, where of course there was that rivalry. That I didn't want her to beat me again. But that was a really hard summer. My mum had bowel cancer, and she wasn't very well at all, and she was in hospital for a long time, most of the summer. So I was visiting her every day in the hospital. And I don't know, maybe it was a good thing. It kept things real, and I didn't focus on me too much. It was like, do the job, go and see her. Do the job, go and see her, and there was definitely a fire in my belly the night before the race again. I saw a TV interview, and I'm going to beat her. She had said, I'm going to beat her, and I was like, I don't think so. I think I'm going to be ready tomorrow. I think I'm going to I'm going to be ready again. I'm going to be back in that zone that I wasn't in, last year. But it was awesome, like that's rivalries are the best things in sport, no? You don't want to just be the one on the top. I mean, they're easy, but ultimately, you want to be pushed to your limit, and that's, raising the bar, Rivalry is good.
Yeah.
Gets the best, and it gets the best
way
of
you
the
came
sport.
back. So the way you came back from that, setting aside your very first win, but and given the external circumstances and things, do you perhaps look back and on that performance as being your best at Ironman New Zealand?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, because because you're not down and out. People start talking. Oh yeah, no, she's done. She's been beaten. She's done. She's over. She's her time's done. And you're like, well, no, actually not. No, I'm not. So so it's kind of like, hey, no, I still am here. So yeah, it was good. I was very proud of the way that we delivered the whole race day. Yeah, especially with what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, that would have been an incredibly tough period too, Joe. But on that race, that comeback race, and I agree. I mean, all your wins are magnificent, but that one was out the box because you didn't just win it. I mean, looking at the splits here, you won that by 14 minutes. I mean, gee whiz, and Gina was an outstanding athlete. You put 14 minutes into second place. That's incredible to see.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I don't know all my times and things, but yeah, I was just, there was fire. There was fire in my belly, but maybe if I hadn't have lost the year before, then it wouldn't be that good. So, there's, you take the good with the bad. So when you lose, it makes you look at things and address things differently, and then you raise the bar again.
2011, 2010, as fate would play it, was the last time you sort of got onto the top step in Taupō. But in 2011, it was kind of all set up for a really cool day. Obviously, you were Queen of Taupō. We've got a reigning world champion in Marinda Carfrae turning up, and Sam Warriner with a great pedigree of Olympic distance racing and so on. That day was one of those kind of nuts days that Taupō can throw up from time to time. The weather misbehaved. Nothing went to script for anybody really that day.
No, it was a terrible day. I remember I got a flat tire coming back in. It took me 32. Remember, I timed it 25 minutes and 32 seconds to change it. So, that was really hard. And it was so cold. It was so wet. And my hands just wouldn't work. I just couldn't get my tyre off. A guy had used 2 tubes of glue. He was a cycling mechanic. And he'd used 2 tubes of glue to glue it on. Obviously tubeless, I just couldn't. My hands didn't work. They just didn't work. And I got a flat tire at 25 minutes 32. It still haunts me, the time. And you're just like, oh my God, my whole world is dying here, is falling apart. Didn't give in. I ran my heart out. I think Rinny caught me again. Maybe a 2Ks from the finish line. I think she also had a puncher. But then that's racing.
Yeah.
I had pretty good time up until then. These things happen. It's not nice to happen, but they do happen. It was just unfortunate that I couldn't get it off. I even had a box cutter that Mano had taped to my tubes, because he's like, okay, man, if that happens, you just cut that thing. So I had a box cutter. He was like, how'd you get a knife? I was like, well, Mano had already attached it to my bike. So even the box cutter, I just couldn't even get it off. It was so bad. We don't do cornering at 100 kilometres an hour in a triathlon. Anyway, he was thinking about safety.
Yeah.
He'd probably feel terrible if my tyre rolled off. So it was a really, really hard day, because it's hard to bounce back from that much time deficit. Yeah, it was very hard.
But for all that, I mean, and you don't remember numbers and stuff like that, Joe, but the top 3 with Sam at the top, and
well, it's amazing though, because in the end, between yourself and Marinda, was only 20 seconds, and between the 3 of you, I mean, that was a very, very tight race. But like you say, the 25 minutes is the 25 minutes. And I remember that day well. It was horrific, absolutely horrific,
miserable.
and it was, Joe. I don't think you'd ever find anything worse than a day's weather for racing.
Yeah. But that's just part of the sport. No, I just have to think, hey, we'd had a good run. We'd had a good innings of no punches or things like that, injuries. So it's going to happen, no?
Yeah. And then the next year it gets weird again, with the weather misbehaving and the race forced onto a Sunday, and it's a half, and suddenly we've got this lady from San Francisco in the form of Meredith Kessler, and Kate Bevilacqua was there, and you're there, and so on. Yeah, at that stage, where were you at, sort of career-wise in your head? Did you still have the fire in your belly? You came in third, you were still up there, but of course it wasn't the race that you'd trained for or planned for.
Yeah, no. I think I was probably getting a bit tired, maybe. I don't even remember now. That's the funniest things. You remember your victories, you don't remember the losses. So, I think that, we was always, maybe thinking of starting a family. And you were like, oh, no, one more. Oh, just one more Kona, just one more Kona. And it was probably, there was probably someone bigger out there telling me, hey, just, maybe think about the next step. Because by that stage I'd done a lot. And then there was that points thing to get to Hawaii, that you had to do so many blooming Ironmans to get to Hawaii. And then the girls were racing, 2 Ironmans in a week. And then, when you've already done, for 10, 12 years back-to-back summers of racing, maybe you're just getting a bit tired, ultimately, and I think that, I just probably got a bit tired. Yeah.
Was that a conscious decision for yourself and your family to go, you know what, it's time to go down a different path of life now?
Yeah.
That doesn't involve Ironman.
Yeah, I think that, I was getting older. I mean, I retired in 2014 with the half in Auckland, and, I was 40, and then I had Penelope. I got pregnant, 2 months after that, and that was the chapter, it was close one chapter, open another one. So I was very lucky that it happened that way. Very lucky. So it was a good step, but and do you say maybe I should have stopped earlier? I don't know. We didn't. We didn't, because there was always that one, I want to win Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, you had a really good Kona career as well. Those the fourths, and you were consistently in the top 10 there. So you were hugely respected by your peers around the world. What other races sort of, offshore, other Ironmans and so on stood out for you that you raced that you particularly liked?
Of course, I Roth. I won that.
Yeah.
2005 or 2006, I don't remember. I just went there, and Belinda Granger said, "Come and do this race," and you're like, "Okay, oh my god, this race." The crowds, you do it, you win it, but when you're in it, when you're in the sport, you don't celebrate as much as you possibly could. Then you step away, and then you think, "Oh man, I probably should have really, really, really enjoyed it a bit more." Celebrating my Kona, 2/4, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. I had pretty much all the numbers except 1, 2, 3. But you always think, "Oh, I could do more. I could have done better. I wish I was third. I wish I was, fifth." So you're always like, "Oh, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have run faster." So you're always striving for that happiness a bit more. And when you're outside of it now, you think, "Oh, what an idiot! Like fourth in the world, like two fourths in Kona was like stupid." Like to get that now is like, you're crazy. Going to the press conferences, all those sorts of media scenarios that you have to be involved in. They're a privilege. They're amazing things. And you should look back at them and say, "Wow, I was good." But you don't think that you are good because you're in it, because you want better and you want more. So yeah.
Do you reflect on what what you did for New Zealand Ironman, flying the flag in the world stage, and what you did? I mean, 7 wins is just incredible at Ironman New Zealand. I mean, add to that, like you say, winning in Roth. I also remember you were the first ever New Zealand woman to go under 9 hours in an Ironman, which was at Roth at an iron distance race, and what you did through there. And do you look back and reflect on your legacy and what you did for the sport at times?
No. It's like that was another chapter ago. I mean, I don't know if it's a Kiwi thing or not. I don't think that you look at it, but it's not everything that I am. Yes, it was a great part of me, and I love it, and I still love it. Every day there's an Ironman on, I'm glued to the computer. I don't even care where the race is. I'm watching it. Absolutely still love it. So, no, I don't dwell on, how good I was or if I was great or whatever in the past. Now I just like to see. I love the sport. I love triathlon. I love the sport. So I'm always going to be watching it, seeing how amazing people are, and watching Lucy Charles was just amazing. She's just a phenomenal athlete. The way that she's just stepped it up, like she's amazing, absolutely amazing. That she can do all that sort of stuff, and the way that she did it was incredible. So yeah, I still absolutely love it. But I don't know, Kiwis, we don't really talk about ourselves too much, don't we?
Well, Cameron and I do, because we think you're really cool, and we really appreciate your legacy and everything that you've achieved, and you are a massive role model for people. So you can downplay it as much as you like, but we tell a different story. So that's just the way it is, And yeah.
Well, thank you.
I mean,
you go.
I was just going to say, life now, you've moved away from it and so on. Just tell us about your life now.
Well, I haven't moved away from it. I still watch it. I'm still involved in it every day. Yeah. We've got, Valentino staying with us for 3 months, and it's just like, wow, like building bikes. Oh my God, like don't miss that part at all. Traveling with bikes, and oh my God, getting them in the car and the thing and the other thing. You're like, oh, I remember Manu and I traveled. Sometimes we had like 11 bags. You're just like, I don't miss those days at all. People asking you, what's in there? Is that a piano? No, it's a bike. Like some of the, I don't miss that part of it at all. But, I think it's amazing sport, and it's great. You pass down your stories to people, and I've got some athletes now that I'm working with. I didn't coach, ultimately because, I don't know, I didn't want to coach. I wanted to be more of a mental coach for people. It's where I saw myself, not so much the numbers. And ultimately, everything in life is about how you feel and how, the aura that you give off and your self-confidence. So I think that everyone trains, but it's just that kind of that little bit extra at the top that if you address. So my girls that I'm coaching now, Hannah Meyer, she won the 25 to 29 age group. Yeah, she's phenomenal. She actually reminds me a bit of me. So yeah, it's like you're just working with athletes now to get their mental side up with their physical side, and then just get them believing in it. And it's okay if you don't do every session, and it's okay. Like pros don't do everything perfect. Like pros do drink, and pros do this, and they do that because. But a lot of people don't believe that you do. They think that we are some extra special people, but we're not. So it's great that you can pass on that story, and I think that triathlon definitely has evolved, of course, with technologies and stuff, but ultimately still it's the mind. And if you can help people reach their goals and self-belief, then they can do anything, ultimately. It's all in the it's all in your brain. So, yeah, I like to, I'm helping these, coaching them, which is great. I just get so nervous, thinking, oh my gosh, how are they going to go? So that's really cool. Living in Wanaka, which is just a big playground, ultimately. Lots of athletes live here. Lots of athletes come and go. That's pretty cool, because you just see them on the trails and you're like, wow, and then people think, oh, that's what you used to do. Yeah, we used to do that. We used to do that all the time. Yeah, all day, 40 hours a week. That used to be us. So we still get our exercise in because it's very important too for our mental side that we do that. But also we have the Precio, the clothing brand that Armando and I are distributors of that, which is the new Jamie Hunt's sustainable sports apparel. So that keeps us busy. And yeah, ultimately just doing a bit of everything, which is important for everything for mental health.
Living your best life. Joe, fantastic that you could join us on the Old School Tri Show, and we really appreciate it. And as we said before, you're a massive role model. The things that you've achieved, but the way you've been free to people, and when people have gone for advice, it's the beauty of the sport. People are so giving in this sport, and you're right at the top of the heap there. So thank you so much for joining us on this show this evening, and people are really going to enjoy your insights. Thanks heaps.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I love to talk about triathlon, and it's an amazing thing, and you see how big the sport is getting, and it's amazing. That I was a part of that, which is very cool. Once I think you've done an Ironman, then it's kind of like a club. People look up to you, and you just think, I can help you reach that, and it's pretty cool life to be have had and still living, of course. Yeah, for sure.